Imagine for a moment that you are drifting towards sleep tonight, not as someone hoping for a better tomorrow, but as someone who has already won. Not just a small prize, not just a stroke of luck, but the feeling of a jackpot winner whose life has already turned in the most extraordinary way. That is the state we enter now, because this is the secret doorway to creation. When you fall asleep in the mood of the wish fulfilled, the whole world bends to reflect that inner truth. Tonight, you are invited to experience something powerful, something simple, something life-changing. The V.I.P exercise. It is not complicated. It is not effortful. It is a quiet inner shift. It is the art of assuming the feeling of being someone very important to the reality you wish to call into being. When you close your eyes and sink into the stillness, you treat your desire not as a distant dream, but as a privilege already granted. You become the honored guest of your own fulfilled vision. Before sleep, imagine the sensation of holding that winning ticket, not the physical paper, but the feeling that sweeps through your body the moment you realize everything has changed. Feel the rush in your chest, the warm expansion in your stomach, the calm certainty that life is forever different. This is not fantasy. This is the creative act. The world you experience is only the reflection of the inner mood you carry into the depths of sleep. In this exercise, you place yourself in the atmosphere of victory. You walk into your imagination as if stepping into a celebration prepared for you. You hear the congratulations. You sense the security, the ease, the relief. You breathe differently. You lie down with a softness that comes only to those who know they are already blessed. You do not hope. You do not wait. You embody. The mind loves to wander to doubts, but tonight you guide it gently. When a negative thought arises, let it pass like a cloud drifting across a bright sky. Return to the feeling, always the feeling. The feeling is the secret. Bring yourself back to the inner knowing that what you desire is already yours. This is your V.I.P. Pass into the world of fulfilled dreams. Settle deeper into the sensation of being chosen, favored, destined for good fortune. Let the body relax into that knowing. Let the breath become slower and heavier. With each exhale, release the noise of the outer world. With each inhale, receive the sweet certainty that life is aligning exactly as you desire. As you approach sleep, speak to yourself not in words, but in emotion. Let your inner self whisper, "It is done." Let the joy of that inner truth cradle you. Let it wrap around you like a soft blanket. When you cross the threshold into sleep, carry the mood of the jackpot winner, the mood of someone whose desire has already blossomed into reality. Do this one night, and you will feel a shift. Do this many nights, and you will witness the world reshape itself, because imagination is not a dream. It is the creative power. And what you accept as true in the quiet moments before sleep becomes the stage upon which your waking life is built. Tonight, fall asleep like the winner you already are. Let the V.I.P exercise open the door. Step through it with confidence and rest in the knowledge that what you assume as real with feeling is already on its way to you. The mood you bring into sleep is far more powerful than most people ever realize. It is not just a passing emotion or a fleeting thought. It becomes the blueprint from which your future unfolds. Every night, as the body grows still and awareness begins to soften, the mind enters a state of heightened receptivity. In those quiet drifting moments, Imagination becomes the author of the experiences yet to come. Whatever you feel deeply at that threshold sinks into the deeper layers of consciousness, and from there your external life takes shape. This is why the last thoughts before sleep matter more than all the thoughts scattered throughout the day. At night, the gate between imagination and manifestation stands wide open, waiting for direction. If you fall asleep rehearsing problems, lingering in fear, or mentally clutching at what is missing, you feed the subconscious with seeds of struggle. If instead you nourish it with feelings of relief, gratitude, fulfillment, and inner success, you plant seeds of joy that are guaranteed to grow. The emotional state held in those final quiet moments becomes a command. It is not heard as a request or a wish. It is received as truth. The subconscious does not argue or question. It simply accepts. If you drift into sleep carrying the feeling of someone who is fortunate, provided for, and supported by life, then the subconscious works to arrange your world so that it matches that inner atmosphere. Life begins to mirror the expectation you fall asleep with. That is why it is essential to ease yourself into a state that matches the reality you desire rather than the one you fear. The imagination must be allowed to paint an inner picture that feels convincing. You do not need details or specific scenes. All that is required is the emotional tone of the experience you want. If you seek abundance, settle into the calm and ease of someone who already enjoys it. If you seek success, adopt the quiet confidence of someone who has already achieved it. Let that feeling settle in your chest, warm and steady. As the body sinks into sleep, let that feeling spread through every part of you until it becomes natural. Many people approach sleep with worry, replaying the day or anticipating challenges ahead. Yet this pattern unknowingly keeps them looping in the same experiences. Imagination is not turned off when the lights go out. It becomes even more influential. The mind is always creating, always responding to the impressions it receives. When you understand this, the time before sleep becomes sacred. Instead of allowing the drifting mind to choose random thoughts, you guide it gently toward the inner world you want to externalize. This is not about forcing yourself to believe something. It is about choosing a mood that resonates with the outcome you desire. You enter that emotional state as if it's already yours. Then you let the body fall asleep while holding that soft but steady feeling. The subconscious carries it into the deeper regions of awareness, and from there it begins to shape the coming days. The world always reflects the inner state you consistently occupy, and the state most consistently impressed upon the subconscious is the one carried into sleep. This is why an inner shift at night can do more for your life than hours of effort during the day. When you sleep in the feeling of a fulfilled desire, you bypass resistance. You create from a place of stillness rather than struggle. The subconscious takes that feeling and builds your waking world around it. When you open your eyes the next morning, small changes begin to appear. Opportunities seem more aligned. People respond differently. Circumstances shift in subtle ways that gather momentum. These changes are not accidents. They are the echo of the emotional state you chose before sleep. Over time, the world adjusts more and more until it fully reflects the inner mood you have made your home. Assuming the inner role of someone already living their desired life is not pretending. It is claiming your creative power. When you take on the feeling of the fortunate one, you are not lying to yourself. You are stepping into the version of you that already exists in imagination. That version holds the qualities the mindset, and the emotional stability you seek. You meet that version within yourself, not by trying to force change in the outer world, but by assuming the inner mood that naturally belongs to that identity. Once you occupy that inner position, life starts cooperating. People treat you differently because your energy communicates certainty instead of doubt. Circumstances align because you no longer contradict your desire with fear. Ideas come more easily because the mind operates from clarity rather than survival. When you feel like someone who is already favored and supported, the world cannot help but reflect that back to you. Your inner posture becomes the magnet that pulls corresponding experiences toward you. Think of a person who feels lucky without effort. They do not analyze whether things will work out. They simply expect them to. That expectation is not arrogance. It is alignment. And alignment always produces results. When you carry the feeling of being fortunate, your actions, choices, and reactions shift in ways that naturally lead to better outcomes. Even when challenges arise, you respond from a place of inner stability rather than panic. From that stability, solutions appear quickly. You are no longer wrestling with life. You are cooperating with it. The more you embody this inner truth, the easier it becomes for life to rise to meet you. You do not wait for the world to treat you as someone who's fortunate before adopting that inner identity. You adopt it first. You claim that feeling as your own. Then the world adjusts itself. This is the essence of creative assumption. You are not seeking validation from the outside. You are generating it from within. Once you accept the feeling deeply, life has no choice but to echo it. The old state begins to dissolve because it is no longer being fed. Gradually, you stop identifying with lack or struggle. You release the idea of being someone who must fight for every gain. Instead, you embrace the feeling of ease, abundance, and inner victory. This feeling becomes your natural resting place. It becomes the steady ground you walk upon. There is tremendous power in deciding who you are internally before the outer world confirms it. When you take on the feeling of someone who is chosen and supported, you elevate your consciousness. You rise above old stories that once held you back. You no longer identify with limitation. You step into a new atmosphere of self-belief that influences everything you do. Your energy speaks before you say a word. Opportunities become visible that you overlooked before because your eyes were clouded by doubt. A person who sees themselves as fortunate moves differently. They speak differently. They expect differently. And the world responds to that expectation with matching circumstances. This inner transformation is quiet but profound. You do not need to announce it. You do not need to explain it. The shift happens inside and the evidence shows up outside. When you imagine yourself as the one already living your desired experience, you create a new mental pathway. Every time you return to that feeling, the pathway strengthens. Soon, it becomes more natural than the old patterns you once repeated. This is how the inner world reshapes the outer world. You inhabit the emotional frequency of your desired reality until it becomes the dominant reality within you. The moment it becomes dominant, the world begins rearranging itself to align with your new inner truth. Occupying the feeling of victory is not about convincing yourself through force or repetition. It is about relaxing into the emotional knowing that your desire already exists in the unseen. You let the feeling settle like a warm glow within your chest. You breathe as if life has already blessed you. You move through the day with quiet confidence. And when night comes, You return to that comforting emotion. It becomes the soft place where your mind rests. The subconscious absorbs it, embraces it, and begins weaving it into the structure of your waking life. When you begin to see yourself as someone naturally aligned with good fortune, life becomes a reflection of your inner atmosphere. The outer world begins to feel more cooperative. Things that once felt difficult start to flow more easily. Connections form where none existed before. Possibilities open in places that once seemed closed. All of this begins within you. The world follows your inner lead. You step into sleep carrying the mood of fulfillment, and you awaken into a world that gradually mirrors that mood. The transformation unfolds not through effort, but through inner alignment with the feelings that belong to the reality you desire. Desire is often misunderstood. Many see it as a reminder of what they lack, a spotlight shining on the distance between where they are and where they wish to be. But desire is never a sign of absence. It is a sign of presence. It is the inner nudge that reveals what already exists within the unseen realm of imagination. When an idea calls out to you, it does so because a version of you is already living it. Desire is the bridge between your current awareness and the reality waiting for your acceptance. If you treat desire as a whisper from your future self, rather than a reminder of what you do not have, the entire emotional landscape shifts. You stop chasing. You start embodying. And embodiment is the true engine of transformation. Instead of feeling frustrated because your desire has not yet unfolded visibly, you begin to recognize it as a personal invitation to step into a different state of being. The desire points you toward the emotional climate that matches its fulfillment. It reveals the next chapter your consciousness longs to inhabit. The moment you see desire in this way, it becomes gentle. It becomes purposeful. You no longer grip it tightly. You receive it. And in receiving it, you align with it. Alignment removes resistance. Alignment allows you to experience the desire, not as something outside of you, but as something unfolding from within. The inner world is always the starting point. Every dream begins as an emotional impression before it ever touches physical life. When you allow desire to shape your inner posture, you begin to carry yourself differently. You breathe differently. You expect differently. You act from a place of inner possession rather than longing. The outer world may not yet show your fulfillment, but internally you feel the beginning of it. And the moment you feel it, you step into the creative process with clarity and confidence. You are no longer waiting for life to grant you permission to believe. You are giving yourself permission to occupy the fulfilled version of your desire from the inside out. The emotional relationship you form with your desires is what determines their expression. If you hold a desire with tension, fear, or urgency, you actually delay its arrival because those feelings contradict the very atmosphere of fulfillment. But if you hold your desire with calm certainty, with the quiet assurance that what belongs to you is already woven into the fabric of your life, you dissolve every barrier. This is why you must nurture your desires with gratitude instead of frustration. Gratitude is proof of inner acceptance. It signals to your deeper self that the desire is already alive in consciousness. And whatever is alive in consciousness becomes alive in experience. Imagination is where this shift happens. It is not an escape from reality. It is the birthplace of reality. Everything you experience in the world around you, was once a thought, an image, or a feeling in the mind of someone who chose to believe it. Imagination has shaped civilizations, created inventions, sparked breakthroughs, and transformed lives. It is the silent force always at work, even when people are unaware of its power. When you use imagination deliberately, you step into the role of the conscious creator rather than an unconscious participant. The mind cannot distinguish between an event vividly imagined and an event physically experienced. This is why imagination is so potent. When you experience something in the inner world with emotional richness, your subconscious accepts it as truth. It begins adjusting your behavior, your responses, and even your opportunities to match that inner truth. What begins as a quiet scene imagined before sleep soon becomes a series of changes in daily life. These changes seem natural and effortless because they arise from the subconscious, which always operates beneath the surface. You do not need to construct elaborate scenes or force yourself into complicated mental rituals. A simple inner experience, felt with sincerity, carries tremendous power. All that matters is emotional authenticity. If you can feel the relief of the wish fulfilled, if you can taste the sweetness of success or the comfort of abundance in your imagination, that feeling becomes a seed planted in fertile soil. You water it each time you return to that inner sensation. Over time, it grows into a state of being, and once it becomes your dominant inner state, the outer world reflects it with unwavering accuracy. Imagination is also the gentlest way to shift your identity. Many people try to change themselves through action alone and wonder why the change feels difficult or unstable. Action without inner transformation is temporary. It is supported by effort rather than belief. But when imagination transforms your inner identity, your actions naturally follow. You do not try to behave like someone who has succeeded. You simply feel like that person internally, and your behavior flows from that feeling. You respond differently to challenges, opportunities, and relationships because you operate from a new inner foundation. This is how imagination quietly redefines your life. The beauty of this inner work is that it requires no struggle. You do not have to fight against old patterns. You only need to create new ones. The more vividly you imagine the emotional experience of your fulfilled desire, the more easily the older states fade. They lose momentum because you stop feeding them with your attention. Your mind gravitates toward the new emotional reality, and eventually it becomes second nature. This is why imagination is not simply a tool. It is the conscious creator's power. When you allow your inner world to take the lead, life stops feeling random. It becomes coherent. It becomes meaningful. The events of your day begin to reflect your inner alignment. People, ideas, and opportunities show up in harmony with the state you occupy. This is not coincidence. It is the natural law of consciousness expressing itself. The outer world is the echo of the inner world. Imagination provides the initial sound. Desire provides the direction. Feeling provides the substance. And the subconscious provides the manifestation. When these elements work together, transformation becomes inevitable. You begin to see that everything you seek is already available within. You understand that desire is your invitation, and imagination is your gateway. Through the quiet practice of inner acceptance, you allow your deeper self to reshape your world without force. You become the author of your experiences, rather than a character reacting to them. In this state of awareness, you no longer question whether your desires will manifest. You understand that they are already unfolding. You begin to enjoy the process rather than anxiously measuring progress. The journey becomes as fulfilling as the result because you carry the emotional reality within you at all times. You move through life with calm expectancy, knowing that what is held firmly in imagination becomes what is held eventually in hand. Inner conversations shape far more of life than most people realize. Throughout the day, there is a constant stream of silent dialogue running in the background, and this dialogue becomes the script the world follows. What you repeat inwardly becomes the tone others begin to mirror back to you. The words may not match exactly, but the energy does. When the inner voice is filled with doubt, criticism, or fear, life responds with situations that confirm those feelings. But when the inner voice becomes gentle, confident, and aligned with the state of fulfillment, the outer world begins to echo that harmony. The quiet moments before sleep, when the mind softens and the conscious guard lowers, are especially powerful. Whatever inner conversation you bring into that stillness is accepted without resistance. It sinks deep into the subconscious and begins shaping your interactions, your opportunities, and even the way people perceive you. These silent dialogues form the emotional climate of your being. When you repeatedly speak to yourself as someone who's already successful, already secure, already living the life you desire, you shift the foundation of your identity. You no longer approach life from a place of trying to become. You operate from a place of already being. This inner shift changes everything. Your responses become more grounded. Your expectations become more positive. Your energy becomes magnetic. People sense a quiet assurance within you, even if you never speak about it. They respond to that inner confidence with trust, respect, and cooperation. The world starts to unfold in ways that support the story you tell yourself. The subconscious is always listening, always receptive, and always obedient. It does not distinguish between imagination and physical reality. It only responds to emotional intensity and inner repetition. Every time you allow yourself to drift into the feeling of a fulfilled desire, the subconscious registers it as truth. It begins to adjust your behavior and perception to align with that truth. That is why a single moment of deeply felt assumption carries more influence than hours of scattered thought. The subconscious does not need long explanations. It only needs a clear emotional message. Inner conversations deliver that message with remarkable precision. When your inner dialogue reflects victory, the path you walk begins to reflect it as well. This influence becomes even stronger when you persist. Persistence does not mean forcing the mind. It means gently returning to your chosen inner state whenever you drift away from it. A quiet reaffirmation, a return to the feeling, a simple shift in the emotional tone is enough to keep you aligned. Over time, the subconscious accepts your chosen state as the only reality it knows. The old narratives fade because they're no longer supported. You stop engaging in destructive inner conversations. You stop arguing with yourself. You stop planting seeds of doubt. Instead, you cultivate inner speech that uplifts, reassures, and aligns you with the life you want to live. Eventually, this inner harmony becomes so natural that you no longer have to think about it. It becomes who you are. When the inner story changes, the outer world reorganizes itself. New paths open. Old obstacles dissolve. People show up with the exact words or opportunities needed to support your unfolding vision. None of this happens by chance. It happens because you have rewritten the script at the level where creation begins. You have spoken a new reality into being, not with force, but with the gentle persistence of inner alignment. This is the true power of inner speech. It becomes the silent architect of your life. There is a profound strength in choosing a single assumption and holding to it with steady conviction. One clear, emotionally grounded decision can change more than years of scattered effort. When you claim something internally and refuse to let circumstances sway you, you set a powerful creative force into motion. You are no longer reacting to the external world. You are directing it. The assumption becomes your inner anchor. No matter what happens on the surface, you return to that inner truth with quiet certainty. You do not need to explain it. You do not need to demonstrate it. You simply know it. That knowing becomes the source of your stability. Most people allow outer conditions to dictate their beliefs. They wait for evidence before accepting something as true. This delays their desires indefinitely, because the world cannot reflect what has not yet been accepted within. But when you reverse this pattern and decide first within yourself, everything changes. You no longer seek proof, you generate it. You no longer chase results, you embody them. This inner decision, once made and held, begins to influence your mood, your behavior, your expectations, and your entire energetic presence. The world responds to this internal consistency with matching experiences. It cannot do otherwise because consciousness is the cause of all outer expression. Clarity is what gives this inner decision its strength. When you choose your assumption, you do not waver between possibilities. You rest in the one you desire. You do not entertain doubts or alternative outcomes. You remain loyal to your chosen feeling, even when appearances suggest otherwise. This loyalty is not rigid. It is peaceful. It is not based on force. It is based on inner certainty. When you hold to an assumption with this calm conviction, you communicate clearly with the subconscious. The message is received, accepted, and enacted without hesitation. There is no need for excessive repetition or frantic affirmation. One inner acceptance, felt deeply and revisited gently, carries immense creative power. Over time, this becomes second nature. You start to trust your inner decisions more than the shifting scenes of daily life. You move through the world with quiet confidence, knowing that what has been accepted within must eventually express without. This is not a matter of hope, it is a matter of law. As you persist in your chosen assumption, you begin to witness subtle changes in your perception. Things that once seemed impossible start to feel natural. The people you encounter respond differently. Your circumstances begin aligning with your inner truth. Momentum builds, not because you are forcing anything, but because you have created an inner foundation that the outer world must reflect. This process is gentle yet unstoppable. It moves quietly beneath the surface until one day the transformation becomes visible in undeniable ways. When you understand the power of inner decisions, you stop scattering your energy. You stop doubting your ability to create. You realize that the world responds most clearly when your inner state is steady. A single assumption, held with peace and certainty, becomes the compass that guides your entire life. It shapes your experiences, your relationships, your opportunities, and the way you move through the world. You no longer wait for life to give you permission to feel fulfilled. You give yourself that permission. And once you do, life rises to meet you with remarkable precision. The state you occupy within yourself becomes the unseen magnet that shapes everything you encounter. It does not matter what circumstances surround you or what challenges appear in your path. What matters is the inner atmosphere you consistently return to. When you adopt the emotional tone of someone who already possesses what they seek, you shift your entire relationship with life. You no longer look outward for confirmation. You no longer wait for signs. You carry the feeling within you as if it is already your natural environment. That inner state begins to guide your thoughts, your decisions, your reactions, and even the chances that come your way. Life becomes a mirror, faithfully reflecting the quiet assumption you hold within. When you occupy the state of abundance, love, confidence, or success, you begin to move differently. You notice opportunities you once overlooked because your awareness is now tuned to a higher frequency. You treat yourself with more respect. You speak with more clarity. You allow yourself to expect good without guilt or hesitation. This is not pretending. It is aligning with the version of yourself that has always been waiting beneath the surface. When this alignment becomes steady, life responds in harmonious ways. Circumstances shift. People interact with you through the lens of your new inner posture. What once felt out of reach begins to feel natural. The beauty of occupying your desired state is that it reduces effort. You no longer chase results as if they are separate from you. You allow them to flow into your experience because they are now congruent with the state you inhabit. Action becomes smoother because it is guided by clarity instead of desperation. Decisions become easier because they come from a place of inner security rather than fear of missing out. You stop forcing outcomes and start cooperating with the natural unfolding of your desire. This is why the inner state is everything. It becomes the soil from which your future grows, and when the soil is fertile, the harvest is inevitable. This quiet transformation becomes even more powerful when you emotionally accept your wish as already fulfilled. Acceptance is different from wishing. Wishing keeps the desire at a distance. Acceptance brings it close. Acceptance dissolves the gap between what you want and who you believe yourself to be. When you accept inwardly, you do not wait. You do not question. You do not bargain. You rest in the feeling with a gentle certainty. This acceptance becomes your new emotional home. From that home, everything changes. When you accept your wish as fulfilled, your energy softens. The tension that once accompanied your desire fades. You no longer feel like you are reaching for something. You feel like you are resting in something. This shift quiets the mind, steadies the emotions, and enhances intuition. You begin to make choices that naturally align with your outcome without even trying. The subconscious guides you effortlessly because it has already embraced your desire as reality. The outer world begins reorganizing itself to match this inner truth. Acceptance draws results to you in ways that feel seamless. You might notice small signs, subtle moments of alignment, gentle coincidences that point toward fulfillment. These are not random. They are reflections of your inner state. Your world becomes more responsive because you are no longer sending mixed signals. You have stopped asking for what you want and started embodying it. That embodiment becomes the invitation the universe cannot ignore. When you emotionally accept your desire, you stop rushing. You no longer measure time with impatience. You understand that what is real within must become real without. This understanding releases the anxious need for control. Instead of pushing, you allow. Instead of doubting, you trust. This trust is not blind. It is rooted in the feeling you consistently nurture. You treat your desire as something already woven into your life, rather than something you must struggle to obtain. This inner acceptance changes your vibration so profoundly that others can sense it even if they cannot explain why. They feel the confidence, the peace, the certainty resting behind your presence. Opportunities meet you with less resistance because your energy no longer contradicts your goals. You move through life with the quiet assurance of someone already living their chosen reality. You radiate the frequency of fulfillment, and life responds in kind. When you accept your wish inwardly, you are no longer a seeker. You are a receiver. You are no longer hoping. You are embodying. You are no longer looking for signs. You are creating them. This is the transformative power of aligning your emotional state with your fulfilled desire. The world cannot help but reflect what you have already embraced as true. Sleep becomes the silent stage where the deepest part of you speaks its instructions to life. In the moments when your body surrenders and your outer senses grow quiet, the subconscious becomes fully open, ready to receive whatever emotional truth you bring to it. This is why the state you fall asleep in is not just a feeling but a command. It becomes the imprint from which your waking world is shaped. When you drift into sleep carrying fears, frustrations, or doubts, the subconscious accepts these as the blueprint for tomorrow. It does not judge or reject, it simply mirrors. But when you enter sleep wrapped in the feeling of fulfillment, abundance, or inner peace, you offer the subconscious a completely different pattern, one that it eagerly molds into the events of your life. Night after night, this sacred transition becomes your most powerful moment of creation. The day may distract you, challenge you, or pull you toward old habits, but the moments before sleep are pure. They are intimate. They allow you to reorient yourself toward the reality you wish to experience. You can drop the noise of the world and listen instead to the quiet whisper of your chosen state. You can feel yourself already in possession of your desire, not through force, but through gentle acceptance. As your awareness slips between consciousness and dreaming, that feeling sinks into the depths where your beliefs reside. These beliefs become the silent architects of your experience, shaping how you perceive the world and how the world responds to you. The subconscious does not work with logic. It works with emotion. It works with imagery. It works with the atmosphere you carry as you fall asleep. This atmosphere becomes the seedbed of your future. It grows while you rest. It expands while you dream. It expresses itself when you wake. What you plant emotionally at night becomes the life you walk into with open eyes in the morning. When you understand this, you treat your nightly routine with reverence. You no longer drift into sleep unconsciously. You approach it with intention. You choose the inner environment you want to nourish. You let yourself feel the kind of peace or joy that would naturally belong to someone who's already received their desire. And then you let sleep seal that feeling into the deeper layers of your being. The transformation begins quietly. It starts with subtle shifts in mood. You wake feeling lighter, calmer, more certain. You begin noticing new possibilities. You respond to life differently without even trying. These small shifts accumulate until the outer world catches up. People speak to you in ways that reflect your inner confidence. Opportunities show up that match your new emotional tone. Life feels more cooperative, not because it has changed on its own, but because you have changed the seeds planted within. Every night becomes an opportunity to align your inner world with the reality you wish to experience. Changing your life is never about forcing the outer world to move. It is about changing the inner state that shapes it. The state in which you fall asleep has the strongest influence of all because it is experienced without resistance. It bypasses the analytical mind and sinks directly into the creative core. When you understand this, you no longer see sleep as a passive end to the day. You see it as the beginning of tomorrow's reality. You see it as the place where you choose who you will be when you wake, and you choose wisely, knowing that the emotions you fall asleep with ripple outward into every corner of your life. When you change the mood you carry into unconsciousness, you change the narrative of your existence. Sleep becomes the bridge between imagination and manifestation, linking the world within you to the world around you. Each night offers a quiet invitation to step into the version of yourself that already lives the life you desire. And each morning becomes the unfolding of that inner acceptance. By treating this nightly transition as sacred, you shape your destiny gently, steadily, and profoundly.